Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. A big warm welcome to all of our viewers and listeners around the world. This is USA Global TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and our show is the Listening Mentor Show. We want to welcome all of our new audiences on Instagram, Roku Worldwide, and Amazon Fire, as well as our loyal viewers and listeners on all the podcast platforms, as well as YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and our website. Today's topic is, which voice do I listen to? The one in my head or the one in my gut? Joining me is our resident in-house therapist. She is the Harley Street stress expert. She is probably the most accomplished woman I know, and I love her dearly. Let's welcome Caroline Heward joining us from the United Kingdom. Hello.
Oh, thank you. That was so lovely. I really appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. And I love doing this show with you. We have so much fun. And just so our new viewers know, there's no script. This is all authentic and taking place in real time. So Caroline has no idea what I'm going to be asking her about, what we're going to be talking about. And she knows what the title of the show is, but that's all she knows. And I don't know what I'm going to be asking her because I really listen to what she responds with, and then I go from there. So that's also the purpose of the Listening Mentor Show, for people to pick up tips to learn how to listen better. Because when we're listening more effectively, we're really providing a gift, because most of us feel like we're not heard, that what we have to say is not valuable, and that no one is listening. Caroline, am I on point with that, or am I just on my own soapbox?
Oh, you're so on point. We listen sometimes in a way to get our own bit in, our own story in. So we kind of hear the first like few bars of what somebody's saying, and then we're already thinking about what we want to say normally, not all the time, but normally, because we want to get in there. And when we do that, we're actually not listening because we're waiting for the space to get our own point of view across, or our own story. And therefore, while we're thinking about what we want to say, we don't actually listen.
So true, Caroline. So true. You know, something that's coming up for me, and I want to bring this up as a point of awareness before we dive into our topic, is I had a potential client reach out to me, and this person was interested in doing something with us. And the first thing they did was badmouth the people they're with currently. And they went on and on, unsolicited, just ripping apart where they are right now. And when they finally finished their tirade of going on and on, the person said, can you share with me what I would be getting if I join this platform? And the first thing I went to was about listening. And they started laughing and they said, you know, I'm really told that I'm not listening. I'm just talking. And I just started to laugh because I thought, you're still doing it. You've been told it, but you're still doing it. So in relationships, maybe our partner is saying, you never listen to me. You don't hear what I'm saying. And then unless we put the work in, we're still doing the same thing over and over again. But before we think about what our partner has to say, or maybe our colleague or our friend, sometimes we have that voice in our head that's that monkey mind, or it's that tape recorder that's going on and on and on. And then other times it's not a voice in our gut, but there's that feeling in our gut, and there's sometimes in competition. So let's talk a little bit first about the voice that we hear in our head. That's, you know, we're not mentally unstable, but what is the voice we hear in our head?
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. What we generally find is that we have this inner dialogue, or this inner conversation, and we all have it. It doesn't matter who we are. Babies don't have it, and very young children, you know, sort of up to probably about 2 or 3 maybe, don't have this little voice that's telling them they can't do something. And so it develops as we get older, and that inner voice, the Buddhist monks, they call it the monkey mind. It's sometimes called the inner critic. So it has different labels, different manifestations in terms of different people's authenticity of how they view this voice in the mind. And it's usually, the voice in the mind is usually talking about the negative things. You can't do this. You're not good enough. You know, you're daft to even attempt to do this. Who do you think you are? You're never going to earn enough. You're never going to be big enough. And it's always looking at the negative side of things. Now, the inner voice, that the sort of the gut, that's the real, you know, that's the gut brain, and that's the feeling brain, and that's connected to the heart, and that's a feel. And so when people say, I feel this is a good idea, or I feel this is a good fit, you'll know that they're feeling because they're saying, I feel. And generally, the feel is what a child feels, a very young child, that they're in a feeling and a sensory experience. They're not in the mind chatter of the negative inner voice. They're in the feel. This feels good. This feels right. This feels like a challenge. This feels like I'm going to grow. This feels like I'm gaining wisdom. This is giving me something towards my goals. And so that feeling is a really, really good steer. It's like the good yardstick to say, yes, this is what feels right. And sometimes when people ask me, what do you think? How would you like to go with that? And I generally, when I'm really not sure, I don't go into the head and think. I feel. And I just say, hang on a minute, I just need to feel into that. I just need to take a moment to feel if that feels the right thing to do. And if it doesn't feel the right thing to do, rather than what the head is saying, I don't do it. Or say, yeah, my head's saying one thing, but my gut brain is saying something else. So actually, I'm going to go ahead with this, regardless of what the negativity is saying. And so that the feeling is coming from the gut brain, and it is connected to the heart. And so that is much more of a genuine place of authenticity. We do get caught up in the monkey mind.
Thank you, Caroline. I really appreciate that explanation. Now, many times or different times in our life, we don't listen to our intuition because something is coming up for us. So maybe that tape recorder that's playing in our mind is more powerful. And it's saying, if you do this, you're putting yourself out there. You could fail. Something horrible could happen. So stay safe in your little area where you are right now. How do we know when we should actually listen to our intuition? Because that might be a clue that we are putting ourselves out there and putting ourselves at risk.
It's different for every single person, Dr. Jacalyn. It just depends where we are and what the situation is. So, for instance, I'm going to give you a whimsical example. I'm feeling, I'm going out for the day, and I'm dressed in summer gear because that's what happens in the UK. We get some sunshine, which we had today, and I'm thinking, I don't need a coat. And then there's some feeling that says, take your umbrella, might rain, take your umbrella. And I don't. And have a guess what? It rains. And so that intuition saying, take an umbrella. I mean, this might not work for somebody that's living in a very sunny climate in Florida. But here, if we have some sunshine and we take all the layers off and we go and experience the sun, because we don't get very much of it. And so the thing is that this whimsical example of there's an intuition that says, take your umbrella. And then I look at it and I think, I won't take that. And then it rains is really annoying. And so this is a whimsical example of when the intuition kicks in, or your intuition says, why don't you do that event? That would be a good fit, a good event to go to. And you don't do it because you forgot about it or you didn't book in time. And then you get feedback from someone else that tells you how great that event was. And you're kind of kicking yourself because it's the fact that you didn't listen to your intuition. And so it's horses for courses. It's about feeling comfortable to listen and not feel that you have to be always in control in terms of making decisions from the mind, that you can actually feel or experience something to say that's a good thing to do, rather than feeling that you have to always listen to what your inner voice says, that negative inner chatter. The intuition is something different, and it is protective, and at the same time it's giving you opportunities that you might not have already thought about.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Caroline. A question I have for you is, and I'm going to give a real life example. So when I started this platform, I reached out to several people, and several people reached out to me. And what I heard from the majority of people is, you must be out of your mind. You're leaving your paycheck, you're leaving your benefits, you're leaving the travel that you have all over the world, and you're going to go out on your own. You're probably going to fail. I mean, you don't have any experience in this area. And I remember I was meeting with someone I worked for, and I had my letter of resignation. And he said, I'm really proud of you. I really admire what you're doing, because I like to do the same thing. So my point is that when your intuition's telling you, yes, this is the way to go, and you're looking for cheerleaders, everyone to come out of the woodwork and go, yes, 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 but people are going, no, no, no. So what I've learned is, I'm not looking for that approval. I'm not looking for those cheerleaders, but many people do look. And when the cheerleaders are not showing up, it's kind of like game over, and they're not going to follow through with their intuition.
That's so true, Dr. Jacalyn. I was certainly in a situation for many years where I didn't realize this. I was looking for approval. And it's a really common thing that people do if they're not feeling sure or confident about a decision, especially a life decision like that, a life change, that they're looking externally to see what others think. And even though internally they feel that it feels good, and they're still looking for almost endorsement of approving your decision that you're going to make. And they are not in the same place in terms of that that impetus of wanting to do something. So they're just looking at the black and white scenario. You're giving up this wonderful job, and this regular high flying benefits package, and sort of all the fundamental things, the wonderful things that come with it, to that. And they're just comparing black and white. But what you're looking at is you're actually in the moment of looking at the opportunity which they can't see. And so when you do step into that place of looking for approval, it's very rare that you get that approval that you're seeking, because they're not in your shoes, and they're going to play the safe bet. They're going to play the safe option, and they're going to probably steer you to carrying on doing what you're doing, because it's the safer choice, and they don't want to be blamed if you do something that's a bit harebrained and a bit out there, and that you don't have any experience about, for you to turn around and say, well, you told me it'd be a great idea. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why people don't want to approve, or they care too much about you that they want you to be safe.
I love what you just shared. Absolutely. And I want to look at some other reasons, some potential. So if you are in a position where you are bringing in the income and you are providing for the home, there can be a terrible fear factor that it's not going to work out. And what's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to this house? And so a lot of these things come into play because it's the unknown. And yet at the same time, if it works out really well, those same people most likely would be benefiting from that. Then there's also, from another point of view, where someone is secretly envious of what it is that you're doing, and they want you to fail, because misery loves company. And they won't tell you that. But inside, when they're all alone and there's no one there that they have to worry about, they're thinking, I hope she doesn't make it because this, that, or the other. So I don't think we can let ourselves be, I'm going to use the word, I hate to use it, but I'm using it, manipulated by what someone else thinks about what it is we're doing. Now, as a certified therapist, if you had a couple come to you and the one partner decided that they really wanted to pursue a new career opportunity and the other partner was completely against it, how would you work with those clients to try to find some area of commonality?
To get both of them to state their case. So the one that is looking at the opportunity, to give him the place to describe and explain and give all his rationale and his reasons for why he wants to do it, and what the benefits of doing that particular opportunity would give not only him but his wife and their lives. And then to give the other partner the opportunity to give her the place to be able to give all the explanation and justification as what she is in fear of, because sometimes we don't actually say what we're in fear of, and that's why we don't want them to do it, and we don't say what all the benefits are. And so you just hear the idea, and then you either love it or you're saying, no, this is all levels of wrong, it's never going to work, without actually having that space to explain and pour out why you want to do this. And it might be a little bit scary for the other person because they're not in your shoes. And at the same time, it's about giving each other the space to be able to listen to the other, to have an appreciation and an understanding of what the other person is thinking, feeling, and considering in terms of what that opportunity is going to give them. And at the same time, having the one that's in fear explain and express all the reasons that they are in fear of that decision, so that they can come together from that place of not saying anything, just having the black and white, I'm not happy about this, or I want to do this. So instead of just having the black and white and not having the explanation, the description. And I believe that when you both share, then you can come to a place of understanding and appreciation to a level of respectful understanding and making that decision going forward. Because it might be the person that has the opportunity hears all the fears and then says, do you know what? I really understand where you are. I really fully respect what you are fearful of. And so now I've decided not to do it. Or it might be that when the person that has got the opportunity explains all the benefits and all the rationale behind it, that they are more on board. So it's about sharing and getting to a level of understanding through active listening, not just listening from your own voice, but through listening compassionately, fully to the other person, so that you then get a combined place of a decision.
Fantastic, Caroline. Thank you so much for explaining that. Now, isn't it also possible that when you are listening, you do understand, you have a new perspective, you respect the other person, but you're not going down that path with them? You can go out on your own and do something else, and I support you and I love you, but I'm not going with you.
It happens. I know of many couples that happens with, and what they do is the person, say if it's the man, for instance, he goes off 5 days a week, and then he comes back and spends the weekend with his partner. And I know many couples, especially professional couples, that do that because one person's business takes them elsewhere, and they land up with two homes, in different cities or different towns or even different countries. And it's more common than we probably give it credibility to be. But there's many professional people, especially if the both parties of the couple are both professionals and they're at the high point of their careers, they probably are attending different conferences and different meetings in other countries or other cities. So this is very, very common. And I do see people traveling, Monday to Friday. They set off on Monday, they come back early Friday, and then they spend the weekend with their family.
Absolutely. Now, Caroline, when we listen to our intuition, I'm just going to say for some people, maybe they're more risk takers and they don't need anything else. Their intuition tells them, this is what I want to do, I'm going to do it. Whereas someone else might say, what research do you have? What facts do you have? What historical data do you have? And you're just thinking to yourself, I don't need any of that. I know in my gut, in my heart, that this is where I belong. How can those two entities coexist? The one who wants the metrics and the one who's going strictly by intuition?
Well, I had such a situation with an ex-boyfriend a long time ago. He was a mortgage broker and I'm a therapist. And essentially, he used to think it was really odd that I didn't have all the stats behind me. And I would share, the things that I was doing. And I remember when I was looking for a mortgage and actually moving from one part of London to another and buying my first property in London. And I didn't have the mortgage approved at that time. And so mid-December, I didn't have a mortgage. And I basically had 8 weeks to find somewhere to live and to buy. And he basically told me, it's never going to happen. You're just not going to, it's not going to work. It's not possible, because he was a mortgage broker. And so he went off on holiday and he came back the middle of January. And by the time he came back, I got my mortgage approved and I'd found a property and I put an offer in and I moved in. It was, rather than it being, I had an 8-week window, I actually moved in 1 day over the time that I had got allocated. I was homeless for 1 day. And one of the things that he shared with me, he said he could not live like that. He said that's too stressful to live on the fly. And he said that he thought that I'd rented the property. He said there's no way you could buy a property in that time. And I didn't have this story about it takes 6 months or it takes, 12 months and there's this and that goes on. I didn't have it going on. I didn't know. It was my first property. And I essentially didn't buy into this long drawn out process. And so it didn't happen. And when I told him, he was so shocked. He said, I need to see this. so that for my own eyes to see that you haven't been conned, you haven't been tricked, that everything is as it should be. When he did see, he says, you did really well, but I couldn't live like that, because it was very much about the stats, about all the metrics, and I was very much about what I was looking for and got it. So I was focused on the outcome, and he was focused on how do I get there. I didn't focus on how to get there. The way appeared when I had made a decision as to the what.
Thank you so much for sharing your own personal story. I really appreciate that. And it turned out well for you. So kudos. Now, what if you and your partner both, I'm going to use an expression, it's a negative expression, but I've heard it. You both shoot from the hip. So you basically listen to your intuition and make decisions like that. Do you have to have one party be more grounded? I'm using air quotes for people on the audio platforms. What if you have two entities who like to take risks, who listen to their intuition? Is that a prescription for disaster, or can it be workable?
It's a fun one. I do really believe that you find that opposites seem to attract. And so, and I don't know whether that's always the case, but, I tend to see, for instance, I always attract people like accountants, bankers, people that are very structured, engineers, people that are sort of good with tech. And it doesn't just fall in the personal relationships, it's also in my business relationships and clients. I'm always attracting the other part of me that I'm not actually there with, so I always seem to attract really good friends that are very technical and very logical, and I'm very, sort of, they consider a bit airy-fairy. And at the same time, I feel that is a nice combination. And if you are not trying to do this one-upmanship, and if you're being respectful of each other's qualities and skills, it can work really, really well. But if you are hell-bent on finding someone that's like you, and you've got two people that are up in the clouds and being really, really woo-woo, then you'll probably find that not a lot gets done. So it's important to have a nice combination. And it would be very challenging and stressful if you both shot from the hip. I mean, I do. And I would say that I think there's a lot of times that I fly by the seat of my pants, which is a very British saying, and I've managed to produce results from that. But it's not always easy for people to feel comfortable in that space. So if you're both shooting from the hip and flying by the seat of your pants, it can be an extremely stressful relationship.
Yes, it can. Absolutely. And it can be like walking the tightrope, then up in the air. And it can be fun too, I imagine. So high highs and maybe some low lows. So another topic I want to bring into when we are listening to the voice in our head, our intuition, it's about setting boundaries. And I think boundaries are really important. How do we set those boundaries with ourselves as opposed to with a partner? So I can set a boundary with you for our friendship, and you can set one with me. How do we set boundaries with ourselves?
That's an incredible question, because most people, they don't set the boundaries until somebody crosses them. And when somebody's crossed your boundary, then you go, oh, I'm not happy about that. And this is when this boundary setting generally comes in. When we're babies, very young children, we don't think I'm going to set all these boundaries because we're very boundary-less. And I believe that boundaries start being set when somebody encroaches over your boundaries and over, something that they've done. It might be something as simple as they've made a call and they're demanding your time there and then without asking, or it might be that they demand to see you today and you can't see them today and they're just not accepting it, and you have something else to go to and they're just not accepting it. And that's a boundary, and they don't know what's going on in your life. But if they push and push and push, then when they've overstepped that boundary, this is when we make them. When we say, you know what, that's not going to happen again, because I felt betrayed, I felt hurt, I didn't feel heard. And so when somebody crosses a boundary, and I believe that we all have our own set of values, and we all have different values. So one of my values is education and training, and almost being a life, part of that is being a lifelong student of my own training, whatever I'm doing in terms of my work. Now, some people might have a value on adventure, holidays, and so they will, if somebody steps over that boundary, that will impact them. If you go on holiday with somebody that is an adventure person and you're a pool person, then that's going to have a real knock-on effect, because the pool person will want you to stay at the pool, and the adventure person will want you to go and trek up mountains or go and see things and go and explore the cities and wherever they are. And for me, if somebody denigrated the fact that I'm spending a lot of money on my education and my training, it would cut across that boundary of, you spend your money where you want to spend it, and I'll spend it where I need to spend it, because holidays isn't the thing for me. It is a holiday when I go off on a weekend and do some training. So I believe that boundaries can be also defined from our hierarchy of values, the things that we treasure most, and we are all different.
Absolutely. I loved what you shared there. And it's just something else when it comes to internal boundaries. Do we have to announce them? Do we have to say, oh, I'm sorry, Caroline, but you're crossing a boundary right now? Or do we show up and demonstrate by our behavior?
Well, if somebody crosses your boundary, I usually go, hang on a minute, and I'll show, sort of almost like a stop, if you know what I mean. If somebody's like encroaching on my space or saying something that doesn't feel right, I will actually almost immediately change, and say, oh, whoa, hang on a minute, that's not right. I'm not happy about this. And if you don't say that, if you don't state that you're not happy about something, then you will start feeling betrayed, upset, you'll start feeling angry, and the other person doesn't even know they've stepped over your boundaries. So there are different ways of approaching this. It might be that you might be very forthright and say, whoa, that is not okay, that's not acceptable. I'm not having that. You can't treat me like that. But that's being a little bit direct. Now, maybe the Americans are really good at being direct. And I have certainly seen a lot of direct Americans, and I'm quite direct. But sometimes I don't want to offend someone. So I'm very English, very British. So I won't say anything. And then I will keep it to myself, and then I'll fester over it. And then I'll finally pluck up the courage to maybe say something almost subserviently. But, this is nothing to do with the other person. It's actually when somebody cuts across a boundary and you feel upset, your reaction is yours. And the other person doesn't know until you say something to them.
That's so true. It's so true. I think another perspective, which I'd love to have you weigh in on, is for me, when someone cuts across a boundary and it's someone for whom I don't have love, or they're not an integral part of my life, I may not say anything. And I may not say anything because it's not that important to set the boundary and let them know, because in my mind it is a relationship that is no longer. And so I don't feel like going through a whole gyration of, well, this is that and that is this, and let's see if we can come to terms, because in my mind I've already decided that this person, this relationship, this situation is not going to be ongoing.
And that's it. You vote with your feet. Yeah. That's exactly, I don't know whether it's an American term, but in England we say, and she voted with her feet. She just didn't, she didn't turn up. She wasn't there. So if you vote with your feet, essentially you didn't say anything. You just didn't keep showing up. And that's actually more demonstrative than saying something. And the English are really good at having, not a good meal at a restaurant, and they don't say anything. They sort of pay the bill. They just don't go back there again. Right. So it's very, we're very internal. The English are quite reserved in terms of if they're not happy about a meal, they just, oh, forget it, it's okay. But if I don't like something and I say, no, that's overdone, or that's really dry, I will say, because I've spent a lot of time in American culture in terms of my training. So I will say it politely. I won't be nasty. I will say, I'm sorry that there's not enough sauce here, or, the fish is overdone and it's really dry and it's very stringy. And immediately the person, that's serving, especially in a restaurant, will say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'll get you another one. And it's because I've learnt the art of being very considered when I'm making a complaint. If there's something that's not right, I'll be kind and considered before I will lose it if they're really not doing anything about it. But that brings in a really nice approach. I frequently get told I'm a nice complainer. That's the nicest complaint they've ever received. And it's about saying what's not right, feeling comfortable to say what's not right, and that's a boundary. And then understanding and having some respect that that person's a person too that you're speaking to.
Very
and to know
true.
that it's not a thing that you're speaking to, it's another person. And so I'm always really considered when I speak to other people, because they're also real too, and they have a life, and they don't want to hear you being really nasty, because a lot of people can take it personally. So
Very true.
it is about that connection of remembering that the other person you're having that interaction with is human as well.
And I also think if you and I were on different pages about something, because we've worked on ourselves and because we've done a zillion shows where we talk about these types of things, I think it would be a very respectful conversation. I think there would be boundaries. Many times, if I'm dealing with someone in the public domain, someone I don't know well, and if something comes up, I might actively choose not to engage and to explain, to ask questions, because I'm thinking in the long term, let this one go. Let this person just, because when you deal with the public, you never know what the situation is going to be. I also know that it could be a missed opportunity, that had I engaged, had I welcomed feedback, which, by the way, I'm always asking for feedback, and I really like feedback. But in some cases, if the person is really going to the extreme, I gave you an example a few weeks ago, I just didn't engage. Yes, okay, fine, because I didn't think it was worth the time and effort to try to explore that further.
I totally agree with, because it takes energy, doesn't it? And one of the things that we've shared in the past, and because we're both coaches, and we're both in this world of therapy, essentially one of the topics and sort of responses that in the coaching world that is a topic of conversation that we say is, thank you for sharing. And then the other person feels heard. I just get really frustrated with somebody saying thank you for sharing, because I know it's just that they don't want to take it any further. Thank you for sharing just means, sort of, okay, let's move on. But I feel that it is a nice set of words for somebody that isn't in the coaching, therapy, mentorship world, because they feel that they've been heard. And that's the perspective of it. It's that they've been heard without the other person needing to have a big conversation and lengthen the debate. Thank you for sharing means thank you very much. I've heard you.
Yeah, I'm going to have to remember that. Thank you for sharing that. Not to use that one, because I think, to your point, I think that's correct. You're saying thank you for sharing, but let's say it's in the midst of a conversation that's ongoing. If someone brings up something that could be provocative and you're not in agreement, you could say thank you for sharing, meaning that's the end of that conversation. Right?
Yeah, because then you're not engaging. You're saying thank you for sharing, but you're not actually then engaging in the points that they've made. You're just literally saying thank you for sharing, and that's the end of that bit. So if there was any antagonism or any feelings of inappropriateness, you've not addressed them. You've just literally said, with the term thank you for sharing, it's essentially saying I've heard you, I've listened.
And
without
to
you
me,
feeling the
if
need.
it feels like, if I say thank you for sharing on one of our TV shows, I think it has a different connotation than if I said it in a conversation. Because if I'm saying in a conversation, it could mean, why don't you stop talking? It could mean that, right? Just like this is a dead subject. Let's not go forward. But here's a question I have for you when we're talking about the voice in our head or the voice in our gut. Sometimes in order to resolve something, you have to go back in time. And I'm not someone who's really big on that. I don't like to live in the past and bring up, but in some cases, you really have to, because it's a reflection of who you are today, is where you were and the steps that you took to get to where you are. So, how would you counsel a client who was constantly looking backwards instead of looking inwards?
If somebody's looking backwards, Dr. Jacalyn, they can only recreate the past experiences. So if you're looking backwards, you will always repeat what you've actually experienced in the past. And there is then no change, no growth, and no going forward. And there are many people that are like this that will say, oh, I've done that and it didn't work. Or I tried that and it was a disaster. But you're in a different time, a different place, and a different experience. And it might be that it didn't work, but it might have moved on. So I'll give you a little example. I've been trying to, and I'll say that operatively, to sort out my business internet banking. And they send this little machine out, and it's never worked. I've had a real nightmare with it over the years. And I've been very antagonistic about setting up so I just do it over the telephone. It's a bit laborious, but that's what I do. And I called them up. I needed to find out a few things and make sure that my end of month was tying up. And there was a few things that needed to be paid. And so the person said, you would be much better off with internet banking. And I said, those little machines, I have a nightmare with them. And he says, well, it's all changed now. We have an app. I said, what do you mean you have an app? He said, well, those little machines didn't work. He said, so now it's all done over, you download an app. And I said, yes, now I can do this. And it's almost like being able to do something in a different way. And I was very, very negative about doing my business online banking because that little machine just didn't work. And yet now I feel a little bit more positive towards it. So that negativity that I had for all those years is gone. And so it might be that there's a change in situation that means that doing it the next time will be different, will be better, and will be easier. And so we don't know what we don't know. And that's something that I always say, we don't know what we don't know until we go and ask. And if you've had a go at that moment and it's not worked, then to make a decision based on that. Well, if you've tried it in that moment, it's not worked, then if it hasn't changed and you've not changed, then you've got your decision about where you go forward. But if you're living in the past and always basing your future on the past experiences, you're going to be making your future based on your past experiences rather than basing it in where you are now in the present moment.
You're getting deep, folks. I absolutely love it. So, based on what you just said, here's my next question. My next question is, you have two people in a relationship, and it's really two people going in different directions, but you respect one another. You're able to communicate, you're able to set boundaries, and intellectually, the voice in your head, I guess, is telling you that this person is your partner, this person's been there since day one, et cetera, et cetera. But your gut's telling you, I've got to run as fast as I can. But it's a long-term committed relationship. And if you run, you don't know what you're running to, but you know what you're running from. And that relationship could potentially evolve, but yet you have that foundation, that structure, those years. How do you make the decision in a case like that?
Well, there's many people that are in this situation, Dr. Jacalyn. There are many people that have a relationship, it's very together, One of my friends, a dear friend, said that after 6 years he's broken up in a relationship, and I actually said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I thought you were forever." And that's sometimes how we feel. Then we change, we grow, and we evolve, and what our forever might be different for different people, and we do evolve and change. And what was right to be in the relationship in that time when you chose the relationship might not be forever. It might be for a few years, it might be 20 years, it might be 50 years. We don't know, and I feel that I have this little saying, that I have in my head: better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. And so why judge yourself? Go in there, enjoy the experience, and then when it stops working, to be brave enough and to be strong enough to say, this was great, this was really working, and now it's stopped working, and now it's not fun anymore, and now it doesn't work for me, and I'm sorry, it's just not right for me anymore. And there's nothing wrong in admitting that, sort of go in there and have some fun and make sure that you're fulfilled, because you don't know what you don't know, and people change when they're in relationships, and it might be the best thing ever. You just have to have a go. But if the feeling is that you don't want to be hurt and you're guarding yourself, then you're actually in a guardian relationship with yourself rather than being with the other person. And so this is about your personal relationship with you, which is extending to others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think also we hold on to situations, we hold on to relationships, we hold on to jobs, we hold on to labels, we hold on to things. And we're so upset when someone says, hey, it's not working out at work, at home, but yet we don't always look at it as an opportunity for something else because we're so used to what it is that we have. And it's interesting, we had a show beforehand with our team member, Roland Friedel, and he was talking about the fact that he will never get married again and that he likes to have an annual commitment. Let's stay together for this year. Let's evaluate it and see if we want to do another year. What do you think of that as till death do us part?
Wow. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at him, but that's a pretty structured way of going into a relationship.
What do you think of it? Is it doable?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's pretty structured. That's somebody who's in the stats and somebody who's got the metrics right. I don't, it might be a summer romance, for instance. It might be a situational romance. I really don't know. And I think that if that works for him, that's great. I personally would find going into a relationship like that would be, it would almost hold me back. I'd be wondering, okay, then, when's this going to end? If you know what I mean. Sometimes, I think it's nice to be exploring without those constraints, because it might be that after 6 months you might realize it's not working, and it might be after 18 months you realize you want to get married. So I feel that, but that's the way that he's structured it for him to feel comfortable and to feel safe, and we all have to have our boundaries, and maybe that's his boundary.
So in other words, is it fair to say in that situation, two perspectives? The one is, hey, we've got this year. Let's have a great time. Let's pull out all the stops. Let's see how we feel. And then as the calendar starts ticking day by day, we're getting into December, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be renewable, as opposed to I make a commitment till death do us part. And I'm hoping for death to come at any day. So do you feel that one type of mentality could lead to more success than the other, or it has nothing to do with that?
We're all different, we're all individuals and we're all human in our ego-ness. And we're here to have an experience, to experience our feelings, our emotions, and to experience life. And some of us have had difficulties and challenges in relationships. And so we have like a hard exterior defense mechanism. And there's no right or wrong for anybody. It's how we decide to overcome those experiences that have been challenging and difficult. One of my actions that I do is I like to be friends with everyone. And if anything develops, that's wonderful. And if it doesn't, I have a lovely friend. And so if you don't get too quickly into the relationship and get to know each other and be friends first and just see where it goes. And that way, if it doesn't go anywhere, then you've got an amazing friend. And if it does, then that relationship has been based on a sound friendship. Now, that's one of my strategies, and it works for me. And at the same time, I can see that, everybody has their own situations of what they're dealing and coping with. And if you've been hurt, there is a healing, a therapy, a healing journey to go through so that you feel comfortable to be open in a relationship. And, if it works for him, I think it's amazing. I would find it a bit constricting, really, because I'd be wondering, well, okay, then, are the days ticking out and am I out on my ear? I'd rather not be as structured as that and be in a place where it feels relaxed to be who I really am and get to know who they really are and then see where it goes.
I think you brought up a great point. I think it also depends on where you are in life, what your age is, what you've been through. And so for someone like myself who's 61 versus someone who's 30, it might be a completely different story. I might say, listen, you got 3 months. Let's see how it goes.
Well, I spent 2 years in a long distance relationship. 3 years in a long distance relationship. And then I finally moved in with him 3 months before we got married. And I wasn't sure whether it was the right thing to do because I got to know him while we were living together versus, not living together. And it was different. And now I honestly feel that next time, I decide to get married, that I'd probably want to have some space to be living with them, to know whether it's right to get married to them, because it was the person that I married was quite different, every day versus moonlit weekends. And that was something that I learned. And I thought it was going to be the most amazing marriage. And it was. What we had was an incredible friendship. And that's where I started, and that's what I got, and that's why we stayed together so long. So my strategy works to a point that the friendship will always be there. I just need to get over that hurdle of friendship, to me.
Well, I think it's also interesting is I feel like friendship is really important in a relationship. And I feel you also have to have that chemistry and that curiosity and that unconditional love, which is really kind of difficult to find. But there are relationships out there where people are strictly friends, and then there are relationships that are based on lust. So I think it's a matter of what people are looking for and what they can work out. And you are incredible in the way that you help people. And I know you've got some promotions that are going on that are literally crazy. I don't know what you're thinking, but I would love for you to share with our audience. First of all, how can you help people and what do you have there to offer this special?
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. I can't believe that the time is the time. Hasn't the show gone really quickly? And we haven't even scratched the surface. So how I help people is I help you literally bust your stress. So whether it's physical ache and pain, whether it's emotional, whether you're feeling sad, lonely, or heartache, whether you're in a challenging relationship, a bit like some of the relationship issues that we brought up today, or maybe you've lost someone recently and there's a bereavement that you're not quite handling, or whatever it is that you're struggling with, it might be sleep. And if you're not sure and you're saying, I'm not stressed, but then you have a physical ache and pain, or you've got a relationship that's going wrong and you're complaining about it, that is your stress. And so I help you identify the root cause. I work with root cause therapy and chakra psychology to identify the root cause that started this behavioral symptom, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or behavioral. And that will help you work through and process and integrate the emotions and feelings that you didn't integrate from its root cause. And that will leave you feeling absolutely incredibly peaceful, and it will give you incredible deep sleep, because when we're stressed and anxious, we don't sleep very well. And you can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk, or reach out and call me +44 if you're international, 07523 120 189. And my incredibly silly, absolutely amazing offer is I'm offering an hour, 1 hour of consultation over the phone or online, which will identify, we're going to look at 3 or 4 symptoms that are troubling you. And I'm offering it at a crazy introductory price of £50. And you will honestly benefit from so much, rather than just being the free 30 minutes that I was doing. We're going to look at 3 to 4 symptoms, and it will change a lot of things about you. And that's my gift, because there is so much stress, anxiety, and crazy stuff going on. I have decided to let people experience a bit more of me for a little small price, so that you can benefit from some of the symptoms and obliterate them. And I look forward to busting your stress.
Thank you, Caroline. We have the offer up here on the screen so that it'll be out there with the show in its entirety. And so I don't know, Caroline might wake up tomorrow and go, this offer is over. I don't know what I was thinking. So I highly recommend Caroline. She has helped me so much, and I know she can help you as well. So please do reach out to her. Her information is here in the notes for all of the different platforms that we're on. Caroline, a beautiful evening to you. Thank you for a very in-depth and fun show.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure. I can't believe how the time has flown. Thank you very much for our viewers for listening. If you're listening here on the replay or actually on the live, I really do hope that you've had lots of benefit from our incredibly deep conversation.
I know I have, Caroline, so thank you for that. Okay,
Take
bye
care.
for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everyone. Please do reach out to Caroline. You can also find her on LinkedIn as well as Facebook. If you are watching on Roku, please do download our app on Roku Worldwide, on Amazon Fire, and of course on our YouTube channel and all the other platforms, USA Global TV and Radio. I just want to take a couple of quick moments to thank each and every one who has reached out to wish me happy birthday. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of people who have reached out. I will work on getting to each and every one of you, but I just want to let you know how much it means. It's my first birthday without my mother, which is a tough one, but I'm really blessed in so many ways. And we also have our latest Lady Ella book that's available for purchase. Lady Ella is a magical ladybug. She's able to listen at an elevated level. And I do have a picture of her right here. Here is Lady Ella. And in book number 6, she actually has flown in her little sleek spacesuit into outer space. And she is helping creatures in all of the planets learn how to communicate more effectively. And also, in the book, there are lessons to be learned about each of the planets. So children learn facts about the solar system, and they also learn facts about how to listen. So you can find out more on our YouTube channel. We're going to turn over to our sponsors right now. We really do appreciate them, and we appreciate you for watching. Our next show, which is the Perfect Podcast Show, has been rescheduled to Friday. So please do join us at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you again, and let's hear from our sponsors.
Women of the Caribbean and around the world, are you tired of the status quo? Tired of barely making ends meet? Tired of giving maximum effort for minimum results? Are you in need of change, a fresh start, a new outlook, a new perspective? It's time to break through. Join us along with women from around the world at the Empower Her Escape, a 5-day all-inclusive royal cruise to the Bahamas and Florida. Connect with world leaders and influencers and begin afresh your journey to more. Hear dynamic speakers with sessions on women in leadership, the importance of mentorship, how to start a business from the ground up, financial literacy, an integrated approach to wellness and wholeness, and so much more. Guest speakers include First Lady Anne-Marie Davis of the Bahamas, Her Royal Highness Katerina of Yugoslavia Lady de Silva, Her Royal Highness Queen Sekothali Mepena of South Africa, and Coach Max, Global Multi-Six-Figure Wealth Coach. Cruise packages include 2 nights at an all-exclusive resort, gratuities, taxes, and port fees, red carpet welcome and extravaganza, course materials, and a souvenir gift bag, flight not included. The Empower Her Escape Cruise takes place on May 15th through the 19th, 2024, departing from the port of Palm Beach, Riviera Beach, Florida. Hosts for this life-changing event are Coach Cherish Hollingsworth of Florida and Coach Mercy Gilbert of the UK. For more information, visit our website at www.empowerherroyalescape.com or call us at 954-203-6608 or email us at cherishresiliencecoach@gmail.com. Connect, collaborate, celebrate at the Empower Her Escape Cruise.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the Secrets of Visual Impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they are instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you. This program has been brought to you in part by Zane Carson Carruth, etiquette and protocol expert, international award-winning author, television show host, and philanthropist. Thank you to Zane, our official diamond sponsor for USA Global TV and Radio in partnership with E360 TV. Zane is the author of The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever, as well as many other children's books. She's also the television host of Elegance, Polished Demeanor, and Posh Living, seen on USA Global TV and Radio.
Hi, my name is Zane Carson Carruth, and I'm the author of this book, The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever.
Reading is magic. Studies have shown that reading to your children lays the foundation for greater success in life. Reading helps develop language and vocabulary skills. It helps improve memory, and it encourages curiosity and inspires creativity. The benefits are immeasurable, and as a parent, you'll benefit too. In only 10 or 15 minutes a day, you'll be creating more memories and a bonding experience that will last for years to come. So take time to read to your children. Read them books about things that engage and interest them. Tales of fairies and magic fascinate children, and as everyone knows, the Tooth Fairy is at the top of the list. If your child loves magic, wands, adventure, and what child doesn't, you'll love reading them books from the trademarked series The World's First Tooth Fairy Ever. Follow along as Abella, the world's first tooth fairy, accidentally starts the tooth fairy tradition. Learn the tricks of being a professional tooth fairy in the book Abella Starts a Tooth Fairy School. Your child's imagination will soar as you read the adventures of Abella and her magic wand. These wonderful books are available at worldsfirsttoothfairy.com and at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Walmart.
To learn more about Zane, contact her through her website, zanecarruth.com, ZaneCarruth.com. Order Zane's books and merchandise. Contact her about being a keynote speaker at your next event.